Well, good afternoon. My name is Kristine Cody, and I'm the Career and Internship Coordinator at WSU Tri-Cities. It is 1:30, so we are going to go ahead and get started. As we begin, it is my pleasure to introduce Chancellor Sandra Haynes to provide a welcome to our webinar participants and contributors. Chancellor Haynes has always had keen interest in career-connected learning, as well as building strategic partnerships between higher education, the community, and local industry. Today, we see a culmination of all of those areas of passion with this webinar. Take it away, Chancellor Haynes.
You have to unmute. See, these small things I just sometimes forget, even though I've been on Zoom most of the day. So sorry about that. Thank you, Kristine. I really appreciate it. What a great group we have assembled here today. And I really want to thank you for being with us. I wish I could say being here with us, but certainly being with us. As a brief introduction, we have with us a multidisciplinary collaboration of industry leaders who can speak to students and others about the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, or what the effect is of the COVID-19 pandemic on the job market. This is a hot topic among students, and especially those who will be graduating. So we're really grateful to these community leaders and experts who have invested their time and talent in putting together the content that will be presented today. And we also appreciate each participant who will be listening in this afternoon. This webinar highlights current local job trends and the all too real consequences that this pandemic has on employment security. We hope that today provides you with some new insight, some optimism, and some solidarity in the knowledge that we're all in this together. At this time, I will turn it back over to Kristine to review the webinar agenda.
Thank you, Chancellor Haynes. This opportunity that we have today with this webinar is truly a testament to our community, and it has been such an honor to coordinate with the local employers who are on this call, as well as industry leaders. And it has truly been a collaborative effort to bring this content to you today. So as we begin, I do want to give a brief overview of our webinar so that you can kind of see what to expect as we move forward. And just keep in mind that there's a variety of populations on this call. We have students, we have local higher education professionals, as well as business professionals and just our general community job seekers. And so we've got great diversity represented here with a variety of resources and access. And so today we'll provide more of a generalist approach, but we are more than happy to follow up with those who have more specific questions. So here is the agenda for today's webinar. Obviously, right now we are proceeding through the welcome and introductions. We also want to provide both local and statewide resources, as well as just some online resources to give all of our participants just a good selection of different tools and strategies for approaching this unprecedented time. From there, we're going to move into local business impacts and get some insight on how businesses in our community are doing. We've got some incredible experts who are going to fill you in on how businesses are navigating this crisis. From there, you're going to hear from 4 local employers about how this is affecting workplace practices as well as hiring. And then we'll culminate today's webinar with just some general job and internship search tips. We really want to empower you all as you reimagine how to approach the job search process in light of this pandemic. So with that, I want to make sure to give a introduction to our contributors today. Some of these folks you'll hear from on our webinar, and others have simply contributed to the content as we've developed what we're going to present today. And so in terms of our business insight, we will have Carl Dye, President and CEO of TRIDEC, Lori Matson, President and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce, and my fellow career expert, Heather Woodruff, is the program operator at WorkSource Columbia Basin. I also want to give special thanks to Aja Soljic. She provided a lot of insight and feedback to us as we were developing content. She is with the Washington State Employment Security Department. For our employers, we have a phenomenal lineup here for you. We have Patrick Jenkins, CEO at Cadwell, Matthew Petersen, Wealth Advisor and Chief Compliance Officer at Petersen Hastings, Scott Herzl, Senior Operations Specialist with TradeWind Services, and Cindy Mullen, Senior Technical Recruiter with the waste treatment completion company Amentum. So a special thank you to all of you again for joining us today and for being willing to share with our webinar participants. So without further ado, we are going to transition into the content. I want to invite Heather Woodruff with WorkSource Columbia Basin to share with you all the vast array of resources that WorkSource provides, and especially those resources that are specific to those who have been impacted by COVID-19. Heather?
Thank you, Kristine. Again, my name is Heather Woodruff. I'm here proudly representing WorkSource Columbia Basin. For those of you who don't know, WorkSource is made up of a system of partners. So technically, no one works for WorkSource. We are a partnership that all makes up the whole facility. So I represent and I work for a nonprofit called Career Path Services. We deliver and operate all of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Title I-B programming that I'll speak to. And then we're made up of, like I said, a variety of different agencies and partners. Some of those include Employment Security Department, as you mentioned, who is very busy right now facilitating some unemployment insurance to this community and statewide. Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS, operates some services out of our WorkSource, Columbia Basin College and their worker retraining program, and many others that represent job seeker and employer populations. So it's really a whole network and a whole system of partners that come together to deliver services to job seekers. So I want to share my screen, and let's hope I don't run into any technical difficulties. So I can show you some of the online resources. We really had to transition quickly to improving our online resources and our service delivery strategies that are developed or delivered through a virtual platform. So I'm going to start here, and if I, let's see, jump around at all, I apologize. So in the outline that Kristine provided, she brought together a bunch of different resources that job seekers can have. So hopefully you guys can see this. One of them in that outline is called Candor. Candor is an online resource that we connect job seekers that come into WorkSource Columbia Basin to, that is a variety of different, serves a variety of different purposes. There are some salary negotiation tips. There's information on all kinds of different resources that an employer, a prospective employee of a particular agency or industry might be interested in. One that is most important and that we've been directing a lot of our customers to is how to transition to work from home full time. So I have an article here pulled up just on a survival guide you didn't expect to need, and some tips and tricks on this new work from home platform that all of us have found ourselves working on, whether we wanted to or not. That this is where we are today. So this is an example of one of those resources. I'm going to shift quickly to the WorkSource Facebook or the WorkSource website, excuse me. If you haven't been on the WorkSource WA page, worksourcewa.com, I really encourage you to check it out. There are a variety of different resources on here, both for job seekers and for employers. When you create a profile, you can upload your resume. Employers can find you via WorkSource WA. You don't even always have to apply for jobs. You can post your resume and employers can find you. One of the things I want to highlight, though, in light of COVID-19, a way that we have transitioned our workshops to being able to be available virtually, accessible virtually. So I'm going to go to this additional tab here. All of our workshops are really, really popular. So we offer a variety of different topics in a workshop setting. Typically at WorkSource Columbia Basin, we have anywhere from 20 to 30 people in a given class. And that's everything from job search strategies, interviewing tips, a resume and cover letter class with a lab focus. You know, there's hiring events, job clubs, all of those things. And Employment Security Department quickly made these available online. So now you can register for these courses rather than having to come into WorkSource Columbia Basin. All of this content is available via this schedule. So if you go to the WorkSource website and go to the career resources, you can find all of these workshops that can help you in your job search. One of the things that we've really had to shift our focus to is there's so many non-essential industries that are just completely offline right now that are not hiring. And so a lot of job seekers and our customers are having to focus on prepping for what the job market is going to be like when everything reopens and they can apply for jobs again. So these types of workshops and work readiness activities are really critical right now to help set an applicant apart from those who are maybe not taking advantage of this time to help get themselves work ready. Another resource that we offer and another online website that we really utilize at WorkSource Columbia Basin is the Career One Stop. As you can see, this has a variety of different resources available to job seekers. But one of my favorites is the career assessments. So you can take some assessments, you can learn about what careers you might be interested in. If you know what your career interest is, it really points you in the right direction in terms of in-demand industries that are going to be hiring. So this is something that we're using now for preparatory work, for work readiness, and also when the economy is booming and people are looking for work, this is a great place to do some research on how your credentials and how your training can be utilized in the labor market. Another resource that I wanted to share that we are using online is via Employment Security Department. So Employment Security Department has done a great job at getting local labor market information available to our job seekers. So through esd.wa.gov, that is the Employment Security Department site, as you can see here, they do, like I said, an excellent job at making labor market information available to the general population. And if you're not, a economy nerd or a data nerd, this might look on the outside a little bit not very exciting, but once you dive into it, it can be really helpful in terms of your job search. So in particular, one of the best resources that we point our customers to on a regular basis is on these published reports, this employer demand top 25 list. So this was updated April 3rd. And I'm going to show you what these look like when you click on it. These will give you, broken down by county in the state of Washington, the top occupations advertised online, the top 25 employers that are advertising online, and the top 25 certifications that are needed in the labor market in Benton County. So, and you can drill that down to Franklin County as well. So I have the top 25 occupations listed here. As you can see, registered nurses is always at the top of our list locally. And this is data through February. So it's updated at the beginning of April, and it does go back a couple of months. But for, labor market information, that's a pretty quick turnaround on data that you can really use. So these are the top 25 occupations that are advertised online, and the sources are cited there as well. These are the top 25 employers that are hiring right now. So if you are in school or you are in the labor market, these are the places that are hiring. These are the jobs, the number of jobs that have been posted within a quarter. So this is December 2019 through March 2020. This is really usable data as well. As you can see, these industries are not one size fits all. Or these employers are not one size fits all. There's many different occupations that are built or that are offered available through these employers, but it's nice to know who is hiring, where the openings are in our community, so that way you can focus your job search and target your energy towards those places that do have openings. I will also highlight the top 25 certifications. So these are the certifications that are listed in job postings that employers need most often. So a driver's license, pretty common that a lot of employers are going to need you to have a driver's license. And then there are some really more technical certifications that are listed on here that require education, maybe a little bit more simple like a food service certification or your food handler's card. But then there are some pretty, some technical ones. Something that we see frequently in this community is the project management certification and the project management professional certification that a lot of our job seekers are interested in pursuing. So these resources available through the Employment Security Department are really just a great way to inform yourself. The best way that you can tackle your job search and is to know what's out there. And so it can be really challenging to just, start applying for jobs and you're not really quite sure how to set yourself apart. But information is power when you're in the labor market and when you're looking for work. So we really try to inform our customers and teach them how to find these resources themselves because they are ever changing. These top employers and these top occupations change regularly, so staying up to date on the local labor market is really important. Another thing that I want to focus on, or I want to inform you guys of, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, is, let's see. There we go. WorkSource Columbia Basin has programs available for job seekers in our community that can help tremendously in someone's experience. And so there are programs that our job seeker population may qualify for and have access to when they walk into WorkSource Columbia Basin. And that is my specialty. I oversee most of our programs there. Our WIOA Title 1B programs that help job seekers. We assist from everything from tuition assistance to right now we're seeing a lot of connections to unemployment insurance, basic support services for someone's rent, their utilities, while they're participating in job search, but have not secured family supporting unsubsidized employment. They need a little bit of that financial assistance in order to sustain themselves while they look for work. Right now, what most of our staff are doing as they work remotely is making sure that people's basic needs are met. That is mostly what our job seeker population is needing right now. They need to make sure that their unemployment insurance is secure, and that if there's additional needs in terms of their transportation costs or their utilities or their housing, that we are there to support them through that. One thing that we found that I'll just end with is, if there's anything that we have seen as a theme over the past few weeks since we closed our doors at WorkSource Columbia Basin, is that need for a sense of community. Our customers are spending, where we used to have, a quick exchange over email, now our customers are wanting to spend 45 minutes to an hour talking on the phone. And it's almost, a lost way of communicating. We're not doing it. So this quick, fast text message, email type, they really want to engage and they want to have good conversations and they want to feel motivated. So our staff is really spending a lot of their time just being a positive force for job seekers in the community and letting them know that there is hope and that the economy is going to reopen, and that we are here for them should they choose to go back to the industry that they were displaced from, or should they want to change direction and look into some higher education or some credentialing that is going to make them more employable. So we're here. Our doors might be closed, but our services are widely available and we're connecting with job seekers every day. I can send out some information about our programs that you can get into the hands of customers that need it the most. Job seekers, students, those who may be really struggling with a financial need. And so I can send some information out through Kristine if you are interested. But like I said, we're here, we're happy and proud to be serving our job seeker population. And if there are any questions about any of the services we provide, I'm happy to answer them at the end when we do the Q&A.
Great, thank you so much, Heather. That was really valuable information. And I know a lot of the websites that you highlighted, we will be sending out to participants so they are able to access those. As we move forward, kind of as Heather mentioned, we really want to provide job seekers and those who support job seekers, honestly, with some resources and tools to be really strategic about their search and their efforts. And Heather did mention some of these already, so we'll kind of hop around. Heather, I don't know if you want to talk about hot jobs real quick, because I know that's a WorkSource service.
Yes. So we have a team that serves businesses exclusively. So our WorkSource Columbia Basin Business Services team is made up of staff from all different agencies, and they come together to serve employers. And one of the things that they're providing to the community that is really valuable is they're connecting with employers, they're finding out what their immediate needs are, who is hiring, for example, because there are still places that are hiring, and we're updating this list and getting it out on via social media and to our job seeker population on a regular basis. So I did have the most recent one pulled up. I didn't share it when I did the screen sharing, but it's great for employers because they can have their needs met immediately. For example, grocery stores reached out to us and they said, we really need stockers, we really need customer service agents, we need cashiers, we need this immediately, you know, toilet paper's flying off the shelves, we need staff who can sell it. And so they reached out to WorkSource Columbia Basin so we can help. And that gives us the opportunity to connect our job seekers with businesses who are hiring so we can meet the immediate need of that business and get a job seeker placed in some employment that can really benefit them during this time. So that is a regular occurrence that we compile that list of companies who are hiring. You can find it on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Heather. As Heather also mentioned, Candor is another resource. So just to kind of overview, this is actually a live feed that employers can update themselves to indicate their hiring status. From what I've seen, the 3 categories that they list is hiring, hiring freeze, or layoffs. So this is another way that folks who are looking for work can do some job market research. Candor does give the disclaimer that they do not verify this information, so I would recommend that maybe this is a starting point, but you may need to do some further digging to get some more details. In addition, we realize that right now there are probably folks who are looking for ways to get some supplemental income, whether they are unable to leave their home or their household financial situation has changed. Another website that can be a resource is Fiverr, which is an online platform for marketing skill sets that can be packaged as freelance projects. And so you would be surprised, there's obviously your kind of the contenders you would normally think in terms of, you know, people marketing graphic design skills or editing skills, but there are also people who are posting craft lessons and recipes. And we obviously advise that you do some research and see what people are requesting for that, but it's an opportunity for people to offer their skills and set some rates and hopefully maybe gain that as some supplemental income. So that's an opportunity that might make sense for some folks in our community. Also important during this time is we know that the job search process may require, you know, some long-term investment. And so especially from our students here at WSU Tri-Cities, I've gotten the question, well, what can I do right now? And so these are actually some free training resources. I know, Heather, that the Goodwill Community Foundation Online Learning and the Microsoft's IT Academy are also things that are made available through the WorkSource website. Do you want to add anything on those 2 resources?
What I will add is that they are very popular and highly accessible. I mean, you can access these from your home. Once we open the doors at WorkSource Columbia Basin, you can come in and work through these low cost to free training that's available. I'll also add Ed2Go is another great resource for some quick online training. And so they're highly popular, they're employer driven, and so they're very much in demand skill sets that employers are looking for now. And so it's, you know, you're not taking, you know, courses or investing your time into developing a skill set that employers don't want. It's a very in-demand, industry-ready certification platform.
Great, thank you. And similar to those first 2 resources that you see on the slide is edX, which is another way to access some free courses on a wide range of topics. This could be everything from learning a language to communication skills to some more technical skill sets, and they're offered by higher institutions of learning worldwide. So again, we just want to offer this as a way for people to stay engaged and to kind of build and strengthen skill sets, especially around those skill sets that we are seeing are coming into higher demand because of our current circumstances. So last, we just also want to provide some general resources. I think Heather actually touched on all of these. So WorkSource Columbia Basin, the Employment Security Department, There are some amazing market research tools there. Heather showed us some of them, but I would highly recommend that you dig deeper into that website and see how you can be strategic about your search, as well as unemployment resources. And so we want to make sure people are informed about where to find those things. Yeah, I think Heather covered Career One Stop. So with that, we are going to move into the next segment of our webinar and get some insight from on local business impact. So I want to just introduce again some of our guest speakers here. We have Carl Dye, President and CEO of the Tri-City Development Council, also known as TRIDEC, and Lori Matson, President and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce. So we are going to start with Carl. If you're ready, you've got the floor.
Thanks, Kristine. And thanks for giving us a chance to talk to your group assembled here today. TRIDEC's our local economic development agency for Benton and Franklin counties. We work with the State Department of Commerce, and our mission is very generally to diversify the economy of the Tri-Cities and to support some of the federal programs that are still a base of our economy, as well as supporting businesses that are here, helping them expand and grow even in challenging times like this. So I'll make my comments brief, and then if there's any questions that come up later, but we really appreciate being invited to talk today. The COVID-19 impact locally, statewide, and nationally has probably been the most rapid economic contraction or recession that anybody's ever seen in our lifetime. The last big recession that we had that didn't really affect the Tri-Cities as much, but affected much more of Washington State on a greater extent, that happened around the 2007-2008 timeframe, happened at a slower rate. This shutdown of our economy happened almost immediately. And one of the things that we've been working on TRIDEC that I can share with the group here today is that the Governor Inslee put some money in the Strategic Reserve Fund, it's called. We use it in economic development to help companies grow and to help attract companies sometimes. He put $5 million, $3 million from the last legislative session. There were already $2 million in there, and opened it up for small business grants. It was announced a week ago, Monday. And since we work with the Department of Commerce, TRIDEC has been the recipient of those grant applications that have come in. And so I can tell you in about a week and a half, we received 800 grant applications. These are for companies locally that have 10 employees or less that have been affected by COVID. And so we've been working through those applications. We then pass them on to the state, and the state goes through a process to evaluate them and then picks the winners and losers out of that group that we send on to them. But it'll be really a very daunting task. The dollars that might be available for local grants would be relative to our population, and Benton and Franklin County are about 3% of the population of the whole state. So 3% of $5 million, everybody can do the math. Out of that 800, not very many of them are going to get funded. But as we've read through them, what we're seeing across the board in companies that have been, that have had to shut down because of the stay home, stay healthy order from the governor, have really been severely impacted. When they don't have their doors open, they don't have any revenue coming in. They've been forced to lay off employees. They struggle to pay rent. They are seeing all those kind of impacts. And this is across the board from, different types of food and restaurant operations, entertainment and bars, daycare, child services that are out there in the community, even in the healthcare profession. So if it's not an emergency or a pain issue, healthcare is essentially shut down. So that includes dentistry offices, any other types of healthcare that we'd access in the community. So the impact, they don't have a really good number. I think some of the best numbers that we can look at are the unemployment rates that are rapidly increasing all the time. So as we said, this has been a very, very severe impact. We all look forward to the day, and I think today at 5 o'clock, the governor is going to talk about how do we restart the economy? How do we go back to work? And we're all looking forward on what that plan is, because the key here is being safe, keeping our employees safe, keeping our team safe, and providing safe ways that we can go about and get back to doing business as we reopen. I'll also say, and as I kind of sum up here today, that we've worked even closer with our partners. Lori is going to be the next presenter from the Greater Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce. And we've been working closely with the Chamber of Commerce, other chambers, as well as Visit Tri-Cities. We're actually all three in the same building. So we've been looking for ways, how can we do things that might not be part of our normal operations, but how can we support local small businesses to just any chance that they have to do some business, if it's takeout for restaurant industries, if it's posting on our website what businesses are open and what services or products can they offer. We're trying to do those things. So these are new times for everyone, truly unprecedented. And this is a good use of that word. It is unprecedented. And as a local economic development agency, our team, our whole team is really focused on what can we do to help companies survive through this period and then help them as they come back out. We are encouraged that there have been a number of inquiries on companies that even in the crisis that we're in are looking at the Tri-Cities to potentially expand or move into as we look out there. So I think that our hope is that as we come out of this shutdown in a safe and healthy fashion, that we can use the resources that we have available to help possibly even grow new employers for our region, and then help in any way possible the ones that we still are able to survive this crisis and come out of it. So with that, I'll conclude my comments today and turn it back so Lori can have a chance to talk today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Carl. We certainly appreciate you providing that insight for us and sharing kind of your honest perspective on what's going on right now. So up next, I do want to introduce Lori Matson, President and CEO of the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce. And Lori, I know you have some slides, so if you just want to let me know when to progress, I'm happy to do so.
Sure, thanks. I'll unmute. So thanks so much. I appreciate Sandra for doing this and Kristine for organizing this. It's great to see so many people on here. And I think, Carl really summed it up. I think, all of us are really just trying to do whatever we can to help our customers, whether that is employers or employees. We're all, this, as Carl mentioned, kind of happened overnight. So we're learning as we go. But just some background on the chamber. We're the fifth largest chamber in the state of Washington. We've got about 1,200 members, and we started mid-March, actually, right as this first was kind of going public. We put out a COVID-19 questionnaire to our membership. We've received a couple hundred responses, but the first slide here shows that we asked if their company was being impacted, and you can see that 90% said yes. So clearly this is an issue that is impacting a great number of businesses. On the next slide, we asked about how it's being impacted, and this is just a wordle, but you can see some of the common terms here. That the next slide shows specifically some of the impacts that our members shared with us, in the sense that, and again, when we first started this, it was about 2 weeks prior to the governor's order to close businesses. So, but many were already dealing with that, and since clearly most have closed since the 25th if they weren't essential. Many employers are concerned about protecting their employees, those that are working, and so a lot of these employers, you can see some of the things that have taken place, at least in the businesses that you can go to now, where they've got the plastic plexiglass partitions up to secure employees, or to many people are wearing masks and gloves now, and just trying to keep their employees at least 6 feet apart, adjusting their hours of operation. many businesses have been hit financially, so they are drawing on lines of credit or they are looking for grants. I think, you know, the last 2 weeks probably it's just been an absolute flurry of activity in terms of many grants that have been announced, and just, you know, almost this race to try to get paperwork in time while there was still funding available. Lots of companies are, you know, restricting their spending, so this certainly could affect, you know, new employees, for instance, if they're not hiring. You know, if they're closed, they're trying to pivot so that they can either offer their services or the items that they sell through delivery or through takeout or curbside. I think, you know, people are getting very, very innovative in how they are still able to stay open, even if it's not really a type of business where you used to get things, you know, curbside. You know, I just, for instance, I ordered a couple books last week through Barnes and Noble, and you pull in the parking lot and they've got a table outside, and you call and someone comes and puts your bag out on a table, and, you know, it's just a total different way of shopping, but, you know, they're being innovative. Many are obviously laying off employees, so you've got a lot of people that are working to gain unemployment benefits. And then all of this teleworking, you know, the chamber included. Carl mentioned that, you know, we're all in the same building. Well, we all were in the same building. We're all working from our homes now. And, you know, you take organizations or businesses where typically, you know, everybody, you know, you put a lot of, you invest a lot of money into your building and into your into the infrastructure for bringing people into work, and suddenly now you're having to send people home and either purchase laptops or get the proper equipment so that your staff can go home and work, you know, efficiently. I know for us and many others, that was really a big issue a few weeks ago as our employees went home. Next slide just has to do a little bit with the HR issues and how people are, you know, what types of things they're having to deal with. You know, scouring their employee handbooks to try to figure out how employees that need to be quarantined, or again, prior to even having to go home, how employees can use their PTO, you know, understanding more about unemployment and laying off people, and then of course, all of the salary and hour reductions that many businesses are going through. So, you know, you can really just empathize with a business owner that, you know, in early March thought they were doing one thing, and by mid-April they're completely doing, you know, something completely different. So, you know, really big changes. I think my last slide, I think I just have one more here, was just, you know, what types of resources, you know, are businesses looking for right now. And, you know, I mentioned that there's just this flurry of activity within the last couple of weeks to access funds through all these various programs. Obviously helping your employees, you know, if you're having to furlough or lay people off, that's, you know, really difficult both for the employer and for the employees. So you're trying to keep your business going as you're, you know, looking at these people that work for you, that you, you know, have a great relationship with, you care about them, and, you know, you're essentially having to lay them off or furlough them. The banks are really busy working to try to help the businesses with any type of financial assistance as well. So, you know, they're just, and so this is, you know, up until now, and of course, you know, we hope, as Carl mentioned, that the governor is going to outline some plans to reopen our economy and get people opened again. And then, of course, you know, all of this information is going to pivot, as I don't imagine it's going to be like a light switch where you just turn the lights on and one day we're all back in our offices. So I think this is, you know, probably weeks or months long process that's going to continue with these questions and issues, and probably more that, you know, we haven't even thought of when you think about, you know, what's life going to be like, you know, in 6 months even, and, you know, are we really going to go back to the way things were? There's a site, there's a Tri-Cities Open for Business, actually on all of our TRIDEC, the Chamber, and Visit Tri-Cities, we all have an open for business section there where we're trying to, again, provide as much information as we can to consumers and our members for resources and trying to bring visibility to our members. So I just encourage everybody to take a look at the information on that site. Thanks so much, Kristine.
Thank you, Lori. I have personally utilized that tab on the websites and have appreciated that being a resource. So again, Lori, thank you for the Chamber's leadership on collecting this data and for your generosity in sharing that with us today. We are now going to again transition to our employer roundtable. And so before I queue up our first presenter, I want to share with you all the questions that I provided the employers with, so you have a little bit of context as they're sharing today. And I can provide these again if you want to listen to this webinar again later. These can be included in the materials that are sent out. But I asked employers, how has COVID-19 affected your plans for hiring new employees and/or student interns? Has it changed the type of positions you can or need to hire for? Have any of your workplace practices changed due to the pandemic? And what advice would you give to students looking for employment with your company or job seekers in general? And are there any resources you would suggest to stay informed on industry trends and practices? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first employer. We have Patrick Jenkins, CEO at Cadwell.
Great. Well, hey, greetings, everyone. I'd like to start off, Sandra and Kristine, thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this panel. I think that forums like this are just a great way to discuss the challenges that we face and also the new opportunities moving forward that challenges such as this present. I really do appreciate you taking the time to put this all together so that we can come and talk about it. I would like to start off by saying really what we're up against now is temporary. And I know that it seems like every day you're reading the news and all the stresses of what's going on. The economy is really struggling right now. Companies are really struggling right now. But we will get through this. There is light at the end of the tunnel. A few months from now, maybe a year from now, who knows how long, we're going to look backwards and COVID-19 will be in the rearview mirror. The world will probably be different. You know, it's not going to be exactly the same. I can see already with companies such as Cadwell that we're not alone. Our practices are going to change. We've moved almost our entire workforce to virtual, so we're all working from home right now. I think that a lot of those tendencies are going to continue, and as new graduating students leaving and going out into the workplace, I think that you're going to see a lot more technology come to play, and really the workforce is going to be different. New opportunities are going to be created. For those of you who don't know much about Cadwell, we are a local company here in the Tri-Cities. We're privately held. Company's been around for about 40 years here in the Tri-Cities. We employ 170 people, 100 of them are located in our Kennewick office. And we really do something unique in the Tri-Cities, which is true medical equipment. We do hardware, software, networking products for neurology, so brain surgery, epilepsy, sleep monitoring, and our products get used around the world by hospitals, clinics, and physicians to take care of patients. Our motto is helping you help others, and we really feel strongly about giving back to the community and to take care of the patients and everybody that's around us. As far as functions, we're a full-blown medical device development and manufacturing company. And so we do hardware development, we do software development, we market our products, we manufacture our products here in the Tri-Cities. We've got service and support, we've got accounting, we've got HR. So really kind of all functions that you could think of for a medical device company. We're also FDA regulated. And so we get the FDA auditors that show up and we have to comply with all of the medical device rules and regulations that you've seen. We are considered to be an essential company, and because A lot of our products are used for brain surgery, for emergency procedures, really non-elective procedures. We have a lot of people out there, just because COVID is running rampant, everybody else still needs to get care, right? And so we have to continue to support those hospitals and those physician functions that are out there. We have seen a significant drop off in new sales, but our support activities are continuing, and also our R&D, our product development activities are continuing full speed ahead. So the first question is, how has COVID affected our plans for hiring new employees and or student interns? Well, for new permanent employees, we put a hiring freeze in place about a month ago. With the slowdown in revenue, we haven't laid anybody off, really taking care of our employees, and making sure that we all get through this together is absolutely critical for us as a company. But we did put a hiring freeze. As the economy starts to turn around and as our hospital partners start to purchase products from us again, we fully expect that to be lifted. And we're thinking probably in the May to June timeframe, we'll start opening up our positions again. With that said, we haven't stopped recruiting. And so we still have positions posted. We're still actively looking for the right people. As I said, this is temporary, right? We fully expect to come out of this. And when we do come out of this, we want to be really well positioned to continue to excel in the marketplace. And so we're allowing people with open positions to go all the way through the recruiting process, the interview process, even as far as negotiating employment packages, but not giving that final offer and holding those until we're really ready to make that investment in a new employee. We have a very healthy intern program, and we're continuing to recruit and have full expectation of having interns at Cadwell over the summertime and into next school year as well. So really no changes with interns. I do have my email address up here if you're interested in reaching out or have any questions at the end of the presentation or want to talk to me about interns, please send me an email. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. In terms of what types of positions and has this changed who we're looking for, our long-term outlook as a company really hasn't changed. We've got a very strong company. We've got a roadmap for products that we're looking to develop and to release, and we've got ongoing customers that need to be supported. And so our outlook and our strategy as a company hasn't changed. We're just putting things on pause for a little while. So long-term, I don't really foresee those changing. And next question is, have any of our workplace practices changed due to the pandemic? Absolutely. Wow, everything got turned upside down a month ago. We were a little bit ahead of the government and state of Washington's guidelines around telework. And so we put everybody at teleworking, about 85% of our local staff working remotely right now. The safety of employees is really our number one concern. And so for those employees that do still have to be at the company, we're running split shifts. We have one shift that shows up Monday through Wednesday, another shift Thursday through Saturday, and they're working 12-hour days for those 3 days that they're in the office. We're requiring face masks to be worn at all times in the office, unless you're in a room like I am with a closed door. We've got hand sanitizers. We're really doing everything that we can to try to keep our employees safe. We've also gotten really good with meetings such as this. So things that we used to do either over the phone or in person are all now being done via telepresence. And so we've got the Google suite of tools. We use Google Meet and Google Chat almost exclusively for our collaboration, and really keeping the ball moving as a company. And we found it to be pretty effective. Most job functions are doing really well. Software development are saying that they're actually more productive now than they were when they were all in-house, which I thought was interesting. And we had a lot of people push for more of a telework ability at Cadwell. And it's interesting, those are the ones that actually want to come back into the office. And some of the other people who never wanted to telework are actually finding out that, hey, you know what, it's not so bad. It's very different. So we're all getting used to that. All of our interviews right now are being done virtual. We're not hosting any in-site visitors. We really locked down the building. And we also are discovering that our customers who used to expect on-site visits are now being very accommodating for virtual sales demos, virtual training sessions. And so we're getting very good at not traveling someplace, but actually setting up meetings such as this to talk about our products and our services. And I would expect that to be a trend that's going to continue as well. In terms of advice that I would give students who are out looking for work right now, this is really uncertain times. I think the first one is be persistent. I can only speak for Cadwell, but I can imagine other companies are going through the same thing. We're a little dysfunctional right now. You know, things are not quite normal and not firing on all cylinders, and we're doing the best we can to take care of our customers and to take care of our employees. And so it's going to take a while for us to get back to you, but just be persistent. You know, like I said, we're going to get through this. You know, keep coming at us. We are there. We are going to be hiring. Don't give up on us. Also, I think that you need to be a little bit flexible in terms of what you are looking for. Things may be different in a couple of months, and so be adaptable, look at what the trends are, and you know, be a little bit creative in terms of how you go after those jobs. In terms of suggested reading material, if you're at all interested in medical device technology or reading what people are doing with ventilators and how those are getting creative, what COVID-19 testing is, new MRI technologies. There's a website called MedGadget, all one word. You can do a Google search on it. And that's one of the daily news feeds that I get. And it keeps you abreast of anything to do with medical technology. It's a fascinating website. I highly recommend it. In terms of how you can kind of get yourself through this, the first one is you've got to remain positive, right? That we will get through this. If you wake up every day and you say, hey, you know what, today's going to be a great day. It may not look like it did a month ago. I would have never expected this to happen. Well, go out for a walk, go get some sunshine, come back and figure out how you can be productive. I think the most important thing, and certainly one of the things that I'm going to be looking for, is who has made the most out of this period of time. Right? This isn't a time to sit back and feel sorry for yourself. This is the time to say, you know what, there are opportunities out there. How can I go after them? What can I do to get an internship? What can I do to learn a new skill? I can speak for experience. This is a great time to network as well. I'm able to reach out to people who I might not have been able to have a conversation with before because they have a little bit of extra time and get to know that person. And so work on your networking, reach out to the companies that you're interested in and do LinkedIn searches. Maybe you can find somebody that may not have been able to give you the time before that, you know what, I'm sitting at home in front of my computer right now. I could really use a break. Maybe I'll pick up the phone and talk to this person. And also, I think this might be an opportunity for, you know, if this does continue on for longer than we expect, well, this might be a time to look at taking some additional classes, maybe even getting an advanced degree and you know, continuing with your education. Education is really important, and it's something that we all look at. So those are my quick words of advice. Be happy to answer any more questions at the end.
Thank you, Patrick. I did see a few questions pop up in the chat, so we'll circle back with you when we get to that time. Appreciate your positive outlook and again for your willingness to share with us today. At a later time, I'm sure once we get through all of this, Cadwell is an amazing facility that I've had the privilege of getting a tour at, and so definitely recommend getting more informed on what they have to offer and what type of employment opportunities they might have in the future.
Great, thank you, Kristine.
Okay, so moving on to our next employer, we have Matthew Petersen, Wealth Advisor and Chief Compliance Officer at Petersen Hastings.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Kristine and Sandra, for inviting me to be a part of this roundtable. I'll echo what Patrick said. I mean, these are uncertain times, but they are temporary. I think history does a great job of kind of giving us perspective on how we need to approach things like this. And it's hard when we're living it to really see outside of the fog, but I think we're seeing some clearing and some positive things going forward that I think we can all take advantage of, not only as companies, but those that are looking to change industries or graduate and be able to get their first career job. A little bit about Petersen Hastings. We are a local company and we are privately held as well. We were founded in the Tri-Cities in 1962 by my grandfather. We're one of the largest registered investment advisory firms in Eastern Washington. At the end of 2019, we managed around $770 million. And we're a fee-only company, which means that we only receive compensation from the assets that we manage. We don't charge transaction fees, trading costs, things like that, which directly impacts how we look at our revenue in times where the market takes a very significant steep decline, like it did in February through March, where we had really the biggest declines, which those are the largest declines that we saw since the Great Depression. So as we look at how our business was looking at functioning from a hiring standpoint, back in February, we hired a new advisor that's from Walla Walla with the intent to open up an office in Walla Walla. And we still intend to open up that physical location, but we put the location that we're going to purchase or rent on hold, ideally till later this year. We had intent to also hire 3 other employees, 2 associate positions. So how we operate is we have associate advisors, wealth advisors, senior advisors outside of our leadership team and board of directors. And we still plan to hire 1 associate advisor who was an intern for us for 3 years during the summertime. So since we have that familiarity with him, we fully intend to continue to bring him aboard this year. If we didn't have that background with him, we probably would have held off on that position. We were planning on hiring for a associate retirement plans advisor. So we work with individuals, families, 401k retirement plans, and we work also with endowments and trusts, things like that. So we have a group that works specifically with companies for their 401ks and other type of corporate retirement plans. We're going to hire support for that person. We probably will not this year unless something changes, but we have intent to in the near future, once we get out of this mess, to hire someone there. We also are planning to hire some additional support staff. Something we still do plan on hiring in the near future, but we probably won't hire for that person this year, depending on how long it takes for everybody to get back to work. Because like I mentioned, our revenue is directly correlated with the market. So everybody can get back to work, everybody's looking good, but if the market doesn't recover a significant amount or continues to drop, that's how our revenue gets affected, which directly impacts how we're looking to hire. So if you are looking to get in the financial industry business, that's something to keep in mind, that they could be lagging behind as they're looking to catch up on the revenue standpoint. It's really going to be correlated with the market. So we employ about 22 people. We have no intent to lay off anybody. We are an essential business. So we do have some employees that work directly in the office right now that from an operations standpoint are needed. And then the remainder of us are working from home. We're overseen by the SEC, the Security and Exchange Commission. They require us to have a business continuity plan. We actually do fire tests, fire drills every other year, and actually play out scenarios like this. So for us, it was really just being able to implement something that we've been practicing when it's maintaining that business continuity. And we also have clients throughout the entire country. So we've had a lot of familiarity with using technology like this. It's just different using it for people that are in town. Our clients outside the state are fully used to it, so their experience hasn't changed at all. But having those that aren't used to meeting with us, that are used to meeting with us in person, transitioning to a little more technology hasn't been too much of a struggle, but we do have more of an older client base that sometimes struggles a little bit with technology. So they've been very receptive, and teaching them new skills has been a lot of fun. So when it comes down to how I think advice for students, one of the biggest things that we find that really impacts us when we're looking at candidates has to do with people knowing our business. We are a little bit different. When you're dealing with a fee-only company, there's not as many of those compared to your normal brokerage house. So having potential employees or candidates that are familiar with how we operate as a firm, what our culture is. That really goes a long way. So following those companies on social media is an important thing because we all post about things that relate to our culture, who we're helping, and you really can get a better sense of what the environment at the company is. And that goes a long way for us as someone that is a smaller company with, like I said, 22 employees. We all wear some different hats and we all work pretty closely together. So it's important to be able to work with someone that really shares that same culture and work ethic that we all do. And it really factors into how we determine what's a good fit and what's not. Outside of that, no other areas really come to mind. We're growing. We've been a growing company for a while. So anybody that is interested in the financial industry and would like to work for a local financial firm, we post our positions online. Like I said, we will be hiring again here, maybe later this year or definitely early next year. So keep an eye out. I know my email address isn't shared there, but I'm sure that Kristine can forward that to anybody that is interested. All of our information is also on our website at petersenhastings.com. So outside of that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those too at the end of this webinar. And thanks again for inviting me to participate.
Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate you being a part of this. I haven't had the opportunity to meet you in person, but you came highly recommended. So we're glad to have you as a part of the webinar today. So next up, we have Scott Herzl, Senior Operations Specialist with TradeWind Services.
Hey everybody, Scott Herzl, Senior Operations at TradeWind Services. We are a service-disabled veteran-owned company located in Tri-Cities, and we started in 2005, so we're 15 years old. We mainly do work in the Department of Energy, the nuclear sector. So we're out there cleaning up Hanford. We've got employees at Idaho, Tennessee, New Mexico, and we also do work at Energy Northwest and some work for PNNL. One of the questions is, how has COVID affected us hiring-wise? Basically, anybody we already had in the pipeline to hire, we continued on bringing them on, but we have noticed a large slowdown in client needs because everybody has gone remote. So we kind of put the brakes on future work, and I'd say it looks like the timeline's been pushed back about 2 months. The work hasn't gone away. It's not like while everything was closed down, the nuclear site suddenly cleaned itself up. So we're not worried about that. Just the timeline's been pushed back. Where we noticed large differences for us was our recruiting side of the business slowed way down, but HR, timekeeping, and contracts kind of got swamped. So we had been cross-training people, so we moved recruiters and HR people over to contracts and timekeeping to keep everybody, moving and keep all the HR issues that we've been having, under control. And I think we've done a very good job with that. What's really changed for us is we moved all of our office to work from home and remote. So we were lucky enough to have a robust enough system that our phone system and our server system stayed up and we could move everybody remote. The biggest changes were on the policy HR side of, how do we have accountability for our employees, what they're doing daily? Because the last time this happened, the 2008 fall, the ARA money came through, and we know that the Department of Energy 6 months from now will probably show up with auditors, and we'll go through all the audits over again. So right now, one of our main concerns is being bulletproof for an audit. So our employees have a daily log of what they've done, and we make sure they do all their timekeeping every day, and we just make sure that everything is on paper, because we are a government subcontractor, so there is accountability there. I guess right now, what advice would I give to students? Right now, probably the best way to find a job or an internship is leverage personal connections over just, submitting resumes to websites. Right now, if I have someone come to me and say, hey, I know this student, he just graduated or she just graduated, great person, I'm going to give that person preferential treatment over just a random resume. So, talk to your parents, talk to your neighbors, talk to anybody you see that, say, hey, I either just graduated or I'm looking for a job. And that's probably what's going to help you in the next 3 months before everything hopefully goes back to normal and we start using our recruiting systems again like that. So I had the unfortunate experience of graduating during the last recession. So I have a little bit of experience of knowing the fear of what it's like to graduate in a absolutely recessed market where it looks like, you have no hope and you just spent all this money to get a degree. And now it's kind of a sick joke that, all the companies and businesses have turned around and say, well, unfortunately, we're not hiring. I understand that you just spent $60, $70, $80,000, but, come back to us when you have 2 years of experience, even though no one's hiring. And kind of all I have to say about that is, everything eventually worked out. It was rough. I'm not going to lie, but everything worked out. And it was what really pushed through and what really got people jobs, I think, was those personal connections and going out there and meeting people and talking to people. And that's how people really get hired, I've seen out there. So you can go to our website and check out our current jobs. It's tradewindllc.com. We're active on LinkedIn. Back hopefully here on May 4th, when everything turns around, you can walk into our office and talk to one of our recruiters, or you can come find me, or you can find us on LinkedIn, or just call our office, and we're here to help. That's what we do. So I appreciate being involved in this. Thank you, Kristine and Chancellor Haynes. And yeah, if anybody ever has any questions, feel free to reach out and contact us.
Thank you so much, Scott. We really appreciate our partnership with TradeWind Services. And you make a very good point that, leveraging those connections right now is really valuable. And we know that maybe not everyone feels like they have those connections to tap into. So again, that's where I'm sure myself or folks at WorkSource would love to be a resource in terms of helping you do that. So our last employer for our roundtable is Cindy Mullen, Senior Technical Recruiter for the waste treatment completion company, Amentum.
Thanks, Kristine, and I just really appreciate you having this forum for all of us today. A couple of things I wanted to share. Much like TradeWinds, we are a contractor out at the Hanford site, Amentum. We are the prime subcontractor to Bechtel at the Hanford Vit plant, which is, for short, is the Hanford Vitrification Facility, also known as the Waste Treatment Completion Company, also known as Amentum and Bechtel, and there's all those other names you hear bantied about along the way. So just to kind of give everybody an update, we are still moving forward in our hiring. The Amentum side of the hiring at the Waste Treatment Completion Company, or at the VIT plant, is going strong. We are to make glass in 2022. So it's onward. Even in this trying marketplace, we are in a situation where we are running essential personnel staff out at the Hanford site right now, which means any Hanford contractor is running on minimal staff. So we have about 15 people that are out on site, and the other 2,000 employees, I think, across the board are all working from home for the most part, which is a little trying when you go from everybody works on site to everybody gets online. Your infrastructure, we had a few wobbly days in the beginning, getting everybody involved and in through the servers to our computers and all those kinds of things. So we are still doing a lot of hiring. We are hiring engineers. operation type skill sets, maintenance positions. Later this summer, we're going to be adding our lab technicians. I believe there's going to be about 25 of those positions. Those will be shift positions, so they will work a rotating shift, much like our commissioning technicians, which we just finished our last batch of hiring for. We are also going to have our rad techs that we'll start hiring towards the end of the year. We have hired all of our interns for the summer. We finished that in March. We have 14 interns coming in this summer. And there's going to be a little flexibility. This will be the first year that some of our interns may have to work remotely, maybe in the first couple of weeks, and practice our social distancing. So we're having to work through all those growing pains as we go through this. One of the things that is being worked on right now is a site-wide Hanford site remobilization plan with DOE. We don't know when that next step is going to be, what that 0 day is going to be, but there is a plan that they are putting into place in all those steps. So hopefully, as we move forward with Governor Inslee, then we can move forward later on in the month and slowly get the groups in a phased-in approach. So a couple of things that we're doing to help our employees and workplace practices. As Scott mentioned, we're a DOE contractor, so all of our time has to be accounted for. So people, we've had to put in place in HR, we've had to put in place things so people can make sure that they're kind of tracking their time. They all record their time specifically in ways that are billable to the customer. But we're being more proactive in making sure that all those little incidental pieces are also written down so that if we were to get audited, that information is there. We are also working on having our employees work with senior management. One of the things that we're doing is to really try and keep people connected right now. And it's really hard when you come from an environment where we're around everyone every day. You know, you're across the top of a cubicle from someone, you can walk to somebody's office and have a conversation, and those have all gone away. And it's very stressful for some employees. And so what we've gone about doing is having times where senior management is doing small gatherings on the phone, so that 4, 5, 6 people are all gathering on the phone and talking to senior management and what's going well, what's not going well, what could we do better, how can we help you, do you have all the equipment that you need, and having those conversations to keep people connected. Some of the other things that we've done is not only talk about work, but how do you juggle your family? Because not only are you working from home, but you have families who, you know, the kids are at school, they're doing their stuff online, and how do you juggle it all? How do you work your schedule to make it manageable for all of those things? So really engaging our employees and even having those one-on-one conversations. Those of us in HR will pick up the phone and call random employees, just checking in. How are you? How's it going? What can we do for you? Trying to have some Zoom meetings as well. So we're having that connection at least once a week. We're seeing other people's faces because it's good to see other people's faces, right? Encouraging people to get up and get out and walk and maintain their social distance, but also have that fresh air and not sit at their desk 8 hours a day, because we don't do it when we're at the office. Most of us are in a place at work on some of these sites where we walk anywhere from 8,000 to 15,000 steps in a day. And so coming home and sitting at a desk, it's not working for some of us that way. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We are continuing to have some fun as well. We've had everybody share, sorry about the sneeze in the background. We're all having we're doing some fun as well. If you follow the Hanford Bit Plant or the Hanford site on social media, one of the things that we've done is we've shared all of our, a lot of us employees are sharing our pet pictures. So a lot of our pets are hanging out with us at our desks. And so having some fun and sharing our pet pictures of how they're helping us work from home, or how we are doing some different things, like how we do a standing desk at home when we don't really have a standing desk, and how we might prop it up with boxes. And so doing some fun little things and sharing those things with our fellow employees. We are continuing to move the project forward and meet our goals set by the customer. We are continuing to hire. We are continuing to interview. We are continuing to post new positions. In fact, I have put our link to our website on the chat box. I've also put out there the Hanford Vit Plant page, which is a great resource for students to go out and learn about what we're doing and how we're making glass. There's some great sample videos out there of how we're going to go about making that glass. So I think it's really good information. We are doing all phone interviews right now. So over the course of the next 2 weeks, my calendar is full because I schedule all the interviews. And so we have hour-long interviews, and it's trying to fit and move into place. And I think we have like 48 interviews going on in the next 2 weeks. So very busy. And we continue on with our process. We are working on how do we get those folks now onboarded? How do we do our online training so that we can maintain social distancing until we can get folks out to the site? And then once they're out to the site, how do we continue to do that as we move forward in these changing environments? So lots of moving parts right now. What else can I share with you? Advice I'd give students, stay informed, follow the Hanford Vit Plan on the social media platforms. We've got a Twitter feed, we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page. Keep checking in on the site. They do updated monthly newsletters there that are open to the public for you to kind of take a look at. And I think for all of us, we just really encourage students to be willing to be flexible. As we go through this time in internships with new hires, be flexible. Don't get discouraged when an interview doesn't go your way. I will tell you as a recruiter, I've had several of my employees who their students, their sons or daughters graduate with degrees and they're like, Cindy, they've had like 10 interviews and they haven't got a job. Well, you're going up against any of my new hire, new grad postings will have anywhere from 25 to 65 candidates in them. What's going to delineate you? Make sure you follow everything on the job posting. If it's asking you for your grade point average, put your grade point average. If it's asking what types of internships you've had, think about those things. What other jobs have you had that will help you do the job you're applying for? So don't think of it in terms of what am I not doing right? Sometimes it's a matter of redoing your resume. Sometimes you just kind of have to tweak it a little. But think about it in the terms that you might have to do 10 to 15 interviews to get that right job. And you don't necessarily have to take that job that's offered to you. Is it really what you want to do? Are you going to be happy when you take that? Is it going to make you happy? So you have to kind of take all of those things into consideration as you move forward. But be willing to learn new things and be willing to think outside the box. There's a lot of up and downs in this life. And like Scott, I was employed in 2008 and then I wasn't. So I've been through this myself, and it is, you just have to practice patience. I have one of my friends on Facebook, one of the things that she does every morning, she posts a new song for everybody, and it's always an uplifting thing, and I kind of get a chuckle out of it, but you know what, it makes your day. So think about things that you can do to keep that positive attitude, even when the times get a little tough. Go out, take a walk, take a few deep breaths, but we will get through this together. We will, I promise. That's all I have.
Thank you, Cindy. We also appreciate your ongoing partnership with us. So, I want to say thank you again to all of our employers and our local leaders and experts for being on this webinar. You've certainly reinforced a lot of the points that I wanted to share. So before we wrap up the formal content and move into question and answer, I did not want to miss the opportunity to provide some tips for folks who are job searching at this time. And again, a lot of this has already been reinforced by our webinar contributors. So thank you. We have seamlessly been on the same page here. The first is to educate yourself on local market trends and skills in demand due to COVID-19. So again, I think this is one way to be really strategic with your job search efforts, is to look at employers who have indicated that they are hiring to take some of these tips that the employers on our webinar have given you, and really being intentional to implement that. And I think that's going to help your efforts pay off sooner, even if it's still a time investment, and hopefully minimize some frustration that you might be feeling at this time. Also, demonstrate flexibility and adaptability in the application and interview process. As many of our contributors today have mentioned, a lot of businesses had to pivot overnight, and they might still be working through how to best provide some of these processes remotely. And so just stay cognizant of that and be gracious in this time, but also be flexible and adaptable in terms of what industries, what organizations, what types of positions you're open to. Maybe be open to something that you wouldn't have been before. I think this increases your competitiveness as a candidate if you really can kind of communicate that you're open to trying something new, and you're open to doing something that maybe wasn't previously a part of your plans. Also, I think this one is the hardest, especially for perhaps graduating seniors or for folks who were really secure in their employment prior to this. But this is probably going to require that you reframe your career goals in light of the current market and really focus in on what are in demand and transferable skill sets. And so whether that's technology skills or crisis management, again, utilizing some of the resources we provided so that you can hone those skills, or just being better at marketing those skills that you already have. And then last, but again, this is something that is always important, regardless of whether we're in a crisis situation, but be able to articulate your knowledge, abilities, and skills through various technology platforms if you have access to them. I think it's even more important now that you come ready to those interviews and that your application materials are really on point. And as mentioned, we have resources for you if you're looking to have your materials reviewed or to practice interviewing. We realize it's not a privilege everyone has in terms of certain technology platforms, and so we want to be mindful of that. I think it certainly has arisen as a barrier in our community that not everyone has the same access to resources, and so do the best you can with what you have, and be looking out for resources that our community is offering during this time to meet those needs. But it never hurts to practice, no matter what platforms you have available to you. And so again, I just want to reinforce that for our WSU students, we are still doing online or phone coaching appointments. And I know that WorkSource is also offering remote services for our community members. So these are just kind of some key takeaways. And I know that when I talked with Aja Soljic with the Employment Security Department, she also echoed these things. So this is really kind of some good tips to guide your search. So again, I know we've got some questions in queue. So before I move to those, and I know some of them have already been answered, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of structure for our question and answer time. Participants, you are able to add questions in the chat. I know some of you already have. Please be mindful that we might not be able to answer all of your questions, or we may need to follow up with you at a later time with an answer. We will do the very best that we can. So employers and local leaders who are on the call, if you see a question that pertains to you, please feel free to jump in and answer that question. I will also compile all the questions and the answers, including those answers that we obtain at a later time, and we will get that out to participants and post it on our website, so you will have access to that at a later time. So I'm going to just quickly move through some of our online resources and references that we mentioned today, and then we will officially move into question and answer. So I am going to bring up the chat now and see what we have in queue. Let's see. So I know quite a few people have asked about whether people are hiring or hiring interns. I think that every employer has included their website at this point. Is that the best resource for looking into that?
Yeah, Pat Jensen here. It certainly is for us. Any positions that we're actively recruiting for will be listed up. Internships are much more broad at Cadwell. Send me your resume, and we have a limited number of internships, but it varies every year between mechanical, electrical, software, and service and operations.
Matt Petersen here. We don't hire every year interns, but we do occasionally year to year. And similar to what Patrick was saying, is everything's posted on our website for whether it's an intern or any open position with the company.
Scott Herzl. So interns aren't our specialty, but we definitely hire a lot of students directly out of school. So we're usually looking for more of the graduated students and less of the interns. So that's kind of where we're standing.
Perfect. We had another question about what types of positions. I think quite a few of you who are planning to hire mentioned that already, but would your websites probably be the best place to look at that as well? Or does anyone want to give any examples if they haven't done so already?
Well, this is Cindy. So I have just actually today posted a brand new entry-level electrical engineer for new. So those of you getting ready to graduate next month, by all means, it's out there on the Amentum website. We've also got some operations opportunities. So those maybe with military background who've gone back to school, who might be looking for something, that might be a place that they might take a look as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Cindy. I am not seeing any other questions in the chat at this time, but if anyone else does, please feel free to jump in. I do want to just bring attention to a few comments. We've had some participants and presenters add some content. So it looks like there are some additional online resources for getting free training that got added to the chat. And looks like Heather Woodruff also added another resource if your employment hasn't been impacted. So we'll make sure that all of the resources discussed today will be shared. And thank you. I know we are running up against time. So I just want to say one more big thank you to both our webinar participants and our webinar contributors. This has just been an amazing experience, and again, such a testimony to our community, and hope that you feel inspired and supported through this. My contact information is on the slide. If there's any way we can support folks on the call, please feel free to get in contact with me, and I would be happy to either try to help you out myself or to refer you to the person who can. So with that, just for the sake of respecting everyone's time, we're going to bring the webinar to a close now. So thank you again for participating, and we will see you on the next one. Have a good day.